Most people believe their thoughts are telling them the truth. They wake up with a feeling. They hear a thought, and immediately they accept it as reality. But Marcus Aurelius would have said something very different. He would say, "You are not disturbed by events. You are disturbed by the meaning you give them." Pause for a moment and let that sink in. Your mind is constantly producing stories about who you are, about what others think, about what might go wrong, about what should have happened differently. And most of the time, you don't even notice this happening. You simply react. A message arrives, a memory appears, a comparison forms, and suddenly your mood changes without your permission. This is where most suffering begins, not in reality itself, but in the unchecked thoughts that interpret it. Marcus Aurelius lived in a world far more brutal than ours. War, illness, political pressure, betrayal, constant responsibility. And yet, in his private writings, he returned again and again to one idea. You must separate yourself from your thoughts, not suppress them, not fight them, but observe them. Because the moment you believe every thought you have, you surrender control. In the modern world, this problem has only intensified. Your attention is constantly pulled outward. Notifications, news, opinions, endless noise. And the more noise you absorb, the less space you have to think clearly. So your mind fills the gap for you with assumptions, with fears, with imagined futures, with replayed conversations. You are not weak for experiencing this. You are human. But Stoicism offers a quiet solution. It begins with a simple distinction. There is the thought, and there is you. The thought says, "I'm not good enough." The thought says, "This will fail." The thought says, "They disrespected me." But Marcus Aurelius would remind you, a thought is just a signal, not a command. You don't have to obey it. You don't even have to respond to it. You can let it pass. This is not passive. This is discipline. True mental control is not about forcing positivity. It is not about repeating affirmations. It is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about clarity. Seeing your thoughts as they are without immediately identifying with them. When you create this distance, something powerful happens. Your emotions slow down, your reactions soften, your decisions improve. You stop being dragged by every impulse. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to do this daily, not because it was easy, but because leadership demanded it. And today, life demands it from you as well. Because when you cannot control your inner world, the outer world controls you completely. This is why mental discipline is not optional. It is the foundation of freedom. In the next part, we will explore why most people slowly lose control of their mind without ever realizing when it happened, and how to begin reversing that process, quietly, calmly, and effectively. For now, just remember this. Your thoughts are events. They arise. They pass. You are the one who chooses whether to follow them. Pause here. Take a breath and continue when you're ready. Most people do not lose control of their mind in a dramatic moment. There is no single breakdown, no clear collapse. It happens quietly, gradually, almost politely, one distraction at a time. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before the modern world existed. He warned himself not about great dangers, but about small, unnoticed habits that weaken the mind. Because attention is not lost all at once. It leaks. A few minutes of mindless scrolling, a constant urge to check something, the inability to sit with silence. At first it feels harmless, but over time, your mind becomes trained to avoid stillness. And when stillness disappears, clarity goes with it. Your thoughts begin to fragment. Your focus shortens. Your reactions become automatic. You start living in response mode. This is dangerous, not because distraction is evil, but because it removes your ability to choose. Marcus Aurelius believed that the quality of your life is directly shaped by the quality of your attention. Where your attention goes, your inner world follows. In the modern world, attention is constantly harvested, designed to be interrupted, pulled apart, redirected. And without realizing it, you begin to outsource your awareness. You wake up already reacting. You move through the day without presence. You fall asleep mentally exhausted, yet strangely unsatisfied. This is not laziness. It is conditioning. And Stoicism does not respond to this with guilt. It responds with responsibility. The Stoic does not ask, "Why is the world distracting?" He asks, "Why am I allowing my mind to be led?" Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that attention is a form of power. To direct it deliberately is to reclaim sovereignty over your life. But this requires something rare today: the ability to remain with one thing, one thought, one task, one moment. When attention weakens, emotions take over. You become more reactive, more impatient, more fragile. Small problems feel overwhelming. Minor insults feel personal. Delays feel unbearable. This is not because the problems are bigger, but because your inner stability is smaller. Stoicism teaches that you must train your attention the same way you train your body. Not through force, but through consistency. You begin by noticing where your mind escapes. The moment you reach for distraction. The moment you avoid discomfort. The moment silence feels uncomfortable. These moments are not failures. They are signals. They show you where discipline is needed. Marcus Aurelius did not demand perfection from himself. He demanded awareness, and awareness practiced daily restores control. In the next part, we will examine why reactivity feels natural but costs you power, and how the Stoic learns to pause where others rush to respond. Until then, remember this: your attention is not neutral. It shapes who you become. Guard it carefully. Pause here if you need to, then continue. Reactivity often feels like strength. When something happens and you respond immediately, it feels decisive, alive, powerful. But Marcus Aurelius would have seen this differently. To the Stoic, instant reaction is not power. It is the absence of control. The moment you react without pause, something else is leading you. An emotion, an impulse, a habit. Most people confuse movement with mastery. They believe that responding quickly means they are in charge. But in reality, the faster the reaction, the less choice is involved. Marcus Aurelius warned himself about this constantly. He reminded himself that external events are neither good nor bad by themselves. It is the reaction that gives them power. Think about how often your mood is decided for you. A comment, a delay, a tone of voice. Suddenly you feel irritation, defensiveness, anger. And before you are even aware of it, you are acting from that state. This is how control is lost, not through weakness, but through unexamined speed. In the modern world, speed is rewarded, fast replies, instant opinions, immediate judgments. But Stoicism teaches the opposite discipline. It teaches the discipline of pause. Marcus Aurelius believed that the space between an event and your response is where freedom lives. If you remove that space, you remove choice. And when choice disappears, so does dignity. Reactivity feels natural because it is automatic. But what is automatic is not always what is wise. The Stoic does not suppress emotion. He allows it to arise, and then refuses to let it rule him. This requires patience with yourself. You will notice the impulse, the urge to respond, the desire to defend, and instead of obeying it, you wait. Not forever, just long enough to see it clearly. This is not passivity, it is restraint, and restraint is one of the highest forms of strength. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to ask a simple question before responding: is this within my control? If the answer was no, he released it. If the answer was yes, he acted, calmly, deliberately, without urgency. This is how power is preserved, not by reacting louder, but by responding with intention. In the next part, we will explore why calm is not weakness, and how inner stillness becomes a source of authority in a chaotic world. For now, sit with this idea. Every time you pause instead of react, you reclaim a piece of yourself. That pause is where freedom begins. Take a breath and continue when ready. In a world that rewards noise, calm is often misunderstood. It is mistaken for weakness, for indifference, for a lack of passion. But Marcus Aurelius understood something most people never learn. Calm is not the absence of strength. It is the containment of it. True power does not rush. It does not shout. It does not need to prove itself. It remains steady. When the mind is calm, it can see clearly. And clarity is the foundation of good judgment. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire under constant pressure. Every decision carried consequences. Every mistake echoed outward. Yet his writings reveal no obsession with control over others, only control over himself, because he knew that a disturbed mind cannot lead, not others and not itself. Calm creates distance. Distance allows perspective, and perspective restores authority. When you are calm, you are harder to manipulate. Insults lose their sharpness. Provocations lose their urgency. Fear loses its grip. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without being consumed. Most people believe intensity equals importance. They think that if something feels urgent, it must be acted on immediately. But urgency is often manufactured by emotion, not by reality. The Stoic learns to slow the inner tempo, to breathe where others rush, to wait where others panic. And in doing so, he sees what others miss. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that calm is not a natural state. It is a practiced one. You do not become calm by wishing for it. You become calm by repeatedly choosing restraint, by choosing not to escalate, not to dramatize, not to internalize what does not belong to you. Calm is built in moments that feel insignificant, when you do not reply immediately, when you let a thought pass, when you refuse to amplify emotion. Each small decision strengthens the inner structure. Over time, this structure becomes visible to others. People sense it. They feel less need to challenge you, less need to test you, less need to provoke you. because calm carries gravity. It signals confidence without display. This is why calm individuals are often mistaken for powerful ones. They are not controlled by circumstances. They are not pulled apart by pressure. They remain whole. In the next part, we will explore acceptance and why letting go of control over life itself is the final step toward inner freedom. For now, remember this: calm is not retreat. It is command. Rest here for a moment. Then continue. At some point, every attempt to control life reaches its limit. You can plan carefully, act responsibly, think clearly, and still, things unfold in ways you did not choose. This is where many people break. They tighten their grip. They resist reality. They argue with what has already happened. Marcus Aurelius saw this struggle clearly, and he chose a different response. He reminded himself that control has boundaries. You do not control outcomes. You do not control other people. You do not control chance, timing, or fortune. What you control is far simpler and far more powerful: your judgment, your intention, your response. Stoicism does not promise that life will be fair. It teaches you how to remain intact when it is not. Acceptance, in this sense, is not surrender. It is alignment with reality. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be changed and redirect it toward what can. This redirection creates freedom, because frustration is born from false expectations. The expectation that things should have gone differently, that people should behave differently, that life owes you something. Marcus Aurelius warned himself against these expectations, not because he lacked ambition, but because he valued clarity more. He understood that resistance to reality does not change reality. It only multiplies suffering. When you accept what is, your mind quiets. And in that quiet, you regain choice. You may still act. You may still correct. You may still pursue improvement. But you do so without inner conflict, without bitterness, without resentment. This is the Stoic advantage. Not control over life, but cooperation with it. Many people fear acceptance because they confuse it with passivity. But acceptance does not mean inaction. It means acting from truth, not from denial. Marcus Aurelius believed that peace comes not from having fewer problems, but from needing less control over outcomes. When you release the illusion of total control, you stop fighting shadows. You become lighter, more deliberate, more grounded. This is where inner freedom lives, not in forcing life to bend, but in standing firmly within it. As this reflection comes to a close, remember the central lesson. Your thoughts are not reality. Your emotions are signals, not commands. Your reactions are choices, and your power lies in choosing wisely. Return to this understanding often, especially when life feels loud, especially when pressure builds, because the calm mind is the strong mind. Pause here. Let these ideas settle and carry forward what serves you. Most of your life is shaped by a conversation you rarely notice. It is always there, quiet, persistent, a voice commenting on everything you do, judging, comparing, predicting. This inner dialogue feels personal, but Marcus Aurelius would remind you that it is simply habit. A pattern of thought repeated so often that it feels like identity. You do not choose the first thought that appears, but you do choose whether to continue the conversation. Most people never interrupt it. They assume the voice in their head is speaking on their behalf, but often it is speaking against them. It exaggerates danger. It replays mistakes. It invents future problems. And because it speaks constantly, it feels authoritative. Stoicism begins when you question this authority. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to examine his thoughts the same way a judge examines testimony. Is this thought accurate? Is it useful? Is it necessary? If not, it is dismissed. Not with anger, not with force, simply with awareness. The inner dialogue loses power when it is no longer believed blindly. This is difficult at first, because the mind resists being observed. It prefers to run freely, to narrate, to dramatize. But discipline is not about silencing the mind. It is about not being ruled by it. When you begin to observe your thoughts, you notice something important. Many of them repeat. The same fears, the same doubts, the same self-criticism, day after day. This repetition does not mean the thoughts are true. It means they are familiar. And familiarity is often mistaken for truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote his reflections not to discover new ideas, but to remind himself of old ones. Because the mind forgets easily. It drifts. It exaggerates. It reacts. So he returned, again and again, to the same principles. Not to convince himself, but to stabilize himself. You must do the same, not once, not occasionally, but daily. The quality of your inner dialogue determines the quality of your experience. When the dialogue is hostile, life feels heavy. When it is disciplined, life becomes manageable. This is not optimism. It is order. In the next part, we will explore how Stoic discipline is built over time and why small, consistent practices matter more than dramatic change. Pause here if needed. Then continue. Many people misunderstand discipline. They imagine it as force, pressure, constant self-control, a battle against their own nature. Marcus Aurelius understood discipline differently. To him, discipline was not about fighting the mind. It was about educating it. You do not build a strong inner life by demanding perfection. You build it by practicing consistency. Small choices, repeated daily, without drama. Most people fail at discipline because they try to change everything at once. They attempt to become a different person overnight. And when they cannot sustain it, they conclude that discipline is not for them. Stoicism rejects this approach. Marcus Aurelius did not expect himself to be calm, wise, and restrained at all times. He expected himself to return to reason after distraction, to return to composure after emotion, to return to principle after error. This act of returning is discipline. It is quiet, unremarkable, often invisible. But over time, it changes everything. A Stoic mind is not built through intensity. It is built through repetition, through choosing restraint in moments that seem insignificant, through choosing clarity when confusion would be easier, through choosing patience when reaction feels tempting. These choices do not feel heroic. That is why they work. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to seek admiration for inner strength, because real discipline does not need witnesses. It works best when no one is watching. You begin to notice its effects slowly. Your reactions soften. Your attention stabilizes. Your inner dialogue becomes less hostile. You no longer feel the need to control every outcome. You trust yourself to respond well when the moment arrives. This trust is essential, because discipline without trust becomes rigidity, and rigidity eventually breaks. Stoic discipline is flexible. It adapts to reality without losing its center. It allows emotion without surrendering judgment. It accepts imperfection without abandoning standards. Marcus Aurelius wrote not as a philosopher teaching others, but as a man reminding himself. He knew that the mind must be guided gently. Too much force creates resistance. Too little creates chaos. The balance lies in steady attention. As this reflection reaches its close, remember that mastery is not a destination. It is a direction. You do not arrive at mental control. You practice it. You do not eliminate distraction. You notice it sooner. You do not silence the mind. You stop obeying it blindly. This is the Stoic path. Quiet, demanding, sustainable. Return to these ideas when you lose balance. That is not failure, that is practice. And with practice, the mind becomes a place of order, not conflict. Pause here. Let this settle. Then continue living. Now slow down. There is nothing else you need to understand in this moment. Nothing to analyze, nothing to solve. Let the ideas settle naturally. Marcus Aurelius did not write to impress. He wrote to steady himself. And this reflection is meant to do the same for you. Take a moment to notice where you are. Notice the space around you, the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath. You do not need to change anything. Simply observe. Thoughts may still arise. Images, memories, plans. Let them come, and let them pass. You do not need to follow them. Remember what you have seen throughout this reflection. Your thoughts are events, not commands. Your emotions are signals, not rulers. Your reactions are choices. Nothing here requires force. Control is not tension. Control is clarity. If the mind feels busy, that is fine. If it feels quiet, that is fine too. Stoicism does not demand a particular state. It asks only for awareness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that peace comes from alignment with reality, not from resisting what is, but from responding wisely to it. As you move forward from this moment, you will encounter noise again, pressure, distraction, emotion. This is unavoidable. But now, you carry something with you. A pause. A small space between what happens and how you respond. That space is yours. You can return to it at any time. In a conversation. In a moment of stress. In silence. You do not need to remember every word spoken here. You only need to remember this. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them, and the one who chooses. Take one final breath, slowly, and when you are ready, return to your day. Carry forward what serves you. Release the rest. This practice is quiet, but it is powerful, and it is always available to you.